I'm Courtney Williams. I produce that blog. I write blog posts. I interview the cast and crew. And I also do this discussion group with my ladies. I love these guys so much. Raise your hand if you've seen one of our discussions. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Mostly not. All right.
Oh, wow. You're missing something.
Pardon? Okay, awesome.
Is it a podcast?
It is a YouTube Google Hangouts thing. I'm going to turn it into a podcast. I just have to get to that. So, yeah, you can do it. It's on YouTube. It's on Outlander Behind the Scenes, outlanderbts.com, under episode discussions. So, how many people in this room are show-only fans, meaning you have not read the books? Okay. So we are going to then not do spoilers. Right? What? Okay. Is there anybody here who doesn't want spoilers? Oh, it's the leave early crowd.
Yeah.
They don't count. Everyone counts.
Majority rule. That's right. Majority rule.
Yeah. How do we do this?
Majority rule.
So if they stay,
If it's a spoiler, tell them to block it.
Okay. We will try
our best.
to say this is a spoiler, and then you guys go la 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 la. Fair? Okay. Okay. Ladies, introduce yourselves, please. Let's start with Carmen, and we'll work down the road to our badass.
My name is Carmen Schmidt, and I am a professor emerita at Oregon Health and Science University, where I was a professor for 40 years, or almost 40 years. My field is human anatomy. And I love both the books and the show, and I use excerpts and pictures from both to teach anatomy lessons and fun facts.
Outlander Anatomy.
Outlanderanatomy.com.
Catherine?
My name is Catherine Toomer. I'm a family physician. I'm usually pretty loud. My name is Catherine Toomer. I'm a family physician. I am both a book and show fan. I'm not a purist by any means. I love whatever they do with the adaptations. I also am a contributor to Blacklanders Convos, where we essentially write about each episode. And then I have very much enjoyed doing this with Courtney and Antoinette and Carmen.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Closer. No.
Closer.
Louder? Okay. Is that better? I'm sorry?
Yes.
You know what, that one's... Can that go off?
Yeah.
We can do a mic drop with that later.
Please, no, it's already broken enough.
Yes. My name is Antoinette, and I am a criminal defense attorney. I'm currently a public defender in Atlanta, and I love both the books and the show. And like Kathy, I'm a purist. I love to see the creative adaptations that they make to the show, to bring it to us. Some work, some don't, but I'm appreciative of the creative endeavor, put it like that. And I love doing these conversations with my four sisters of the soul.
It's true, we have fallen in love over Google Hangouts.
Yeah.
So, do you guys want to talk about the season 5 trailer first? Or, I was thinking the trailer, the teaser, and the sneak peek kind of like covering that because it's all new and exciting.
Surprises.
Okay.
Oh,
What, that's
careful
the,
what you ask
that's,
for.
that's the trailer. That's the official trailer.
Wait, is the one that was made by Young French?
No, the one we saw at the end of the panel today. Did you see that? And that's kind of going around virally.
That's the one by the Young French.
No, that's the season 5 trailer.
Okay.
Um, Yes. And then there's a teaser and a sneak peek. Let's just dive in. Should we go on who wants to go first? I'll go third, as usual.
What are we talking about?
I'll go first. Never mind. We usually do this on, video, and I edit. Why are you shaking your head?
Go, yes, go.
Okay. Thank you for that feedback, actually. So I noticed some things about the season 5 trailer. I brought it up today at the panel. Jamie is wearing a red coat. Yeah, and he's been saying on Twitter, I pushed really hard for that. What do you guys think about that?
Go ahead.
I think it was added as a way to get us riled up. I think it was just for discussion, just so we can speculate and figure out what's going on so that we stay interested in what's going to happen. And then they're going to blindside us when we actually watch the show.
So do you think it's not in the show?
I think it's in the show. I don't think it's as significant as what the teaser might suggest.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to be, I think it's going to be in there, and I think it's going to mean something, but I think that it's not, doesn't mean exactly what we think it means.
Got it. Anybody else?
Yes, I agree with Kathy. I think that it was put in for the shock value of seeing Jamie, who we know has every reason to despise and abhor the Redcoats, and to see him in that uniform. If we are following the series and if we have all fallen in love with the Jamie character, to see him is almost like a betrayal. So I think it was put in for that shock value. And I don't think that the way we think it might unfold is what is going to actually happen. So I, for one, am very, very excited to see what they have done in order for Jamie to end up in that red coat.
Good point.
I have an opinion I'd like to share. As a scientist, I'm a very detailed person, and I just came from the Alamance battlefield, where I visited it, I saw it, and I think that the red coat that is used is probably, it was a device that they used, but in reality, if that is what it's about, Tryon's military, militia, and the regulators, none of them wore uniforms except Tryon and maybe one or two other people. But they were not dressed that way. So I do think that it's always interesting, I think, to actually look into stuff. That's not to detract at all for me from the season and what it has to say, because we may learn that there is something that they're trying to say by using the red coat. I think it will be part of the story.
So you're saying like only the highest officers wore
That's
the
correct.
red coat? Okay.
Tryon himself and I think maybe one or two other officers wore uniforms. The rest were just settlers, ordinary people.
But
That's
Jamie
right.
is playing an officer, is he not?
He is, but he did not wear, he would not have
He's not
worn.
regular army, he is militia.
That's right.
Anybody else have comments?
I have an opinion.
Stand up if you would.
I
so we
think,
can-
I think Jamie's wearing the red coat because we all know he has that sense of honor, and he knows that he owes Governor Tryon, and he's not quite ready yet or hasn't decided yet how he's gonna show himself as that he's not on that side. So I think that's what it's out of his sense of honor that he did it to begin with.
Okay, interesting point. Anybody else?
Yeah, but being there is more important than wearing the red coat.
Okay, if you have a comment for everyone, stand up and make it, and then so everyone can participate. Yes.
Or he's a spy.
Or he's a
Spy,
spy.
or he's a spy. Yeah? How many people think he's a spy?
Well, there's quite a few.
Okay, yes?
I think if he truly puts that uniform on, they might be showing that just by putting it on, that will make him make his decision. Awful looking face. When he puts that on, I can do this.
He realizes.
He goes to the right side.
Oh,
Okay.
that's interesting. I like
Interesting
that.
idea.
That- Yes?
Claire had said they were on the wrong side of history again. So just like they were sort of undercover in France, I believe he has to show face and be a redcoat, but he also has to ensure that they don't succeed in order for
Yeah, tough position there. And you, can everybody hear everybody?
Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
awesome.
If you know, the last season, Governor Tryon told me that he had to go after Murtaugh.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again,
And so I think that's what makes it more shocking. So I'm curious that that question wasn't asked, whether he really goes after Murtaugh, whether Murtaugh dies this season or not.
Well, that would be a hell of a spoiler.
For everyone, it's not in the books.
Yeah.
Well,
So it
exactly.
wouldn't be a spoiler.
Well, I mean, spoiler for the show, not for the book readers, for the show itself.
Yes.
Because, I mean, the fact that Murtaugh is still alive
These all bets are off.
means all bets are off. Anything can happen, you know, and I, for one, I'm hoping that anything happens. You know, because even as a book reader, I want to be surprised. And I love the fact that we have elements now in the show that were not in the books, so that those of us who are just show watchers can be on the edge of our seats. You know, otherwise we could just say, oh yeah, that's gonna happen. Oh, that was on page 285, you know, echoing the bone. And that, no, we don't want that. We want to be on the edge of our seats.
I agree with that, and you've heard me say this before. As long as the characters stay in character.
Yep.
That's my only problem with the adaptation, is when Jamie's not Jamie and Claire's not Claire. I just get completely pulled out of the story and I can't buy any of it.
I agree.
There's a question.
What? Yes.
Hey, so
Hey.
with Murtaugh still being alive, well, you haven't read the books, but with Murtaugh still being alive and coming into this next season, what about the characters that he's kind of replacing, like Duncan, who is supposed to marry Jocasta?
Well, interestingly enough, I did recently a casting piece, and you know, Duncan Innes has been cast for this season. Yeah, it wasn't announced by Starz, but it was leaked. And so there is going to be a Duncan Innes. I don't know, what do we think about that?
Oh, God. I mean,
I think it throws a monkey wrench in the, in the story.
thruple.
Yeah, a
I
kerfuffle.
think what it's going to create is a bit of a love triangle. And that, I think, again, all bets are off because they have Murtaugh alive, but I think that someone's going to die and it's just a matter of whom.
What do you mean?
It's
Like,
Outlander.
someone
Somebody's gonna die.
in that triangle.
Someone in that
Someone in
triangle?
that triangle is going to die, and it's just a matter of whom. I don't know if I didn't slow it down and look at the picture and look up close, but there was a scene where there was a woman on the table who looked like Jocasta.
Okay. I
No,
was interested, did you guys see the sneak preview they gave us of 501, the beginning, okay. So they showed a couple of scenes from the first episode of season 5. And one is Jamie as a little boy and Murtaugh coming and telling him, your mother has died, but I will always be here for you. And then the second one is him shaving Roger. I believe it's their wedding day. But when I saw that of Murtaugh, I was like, ooh, is that gonna be foreshadowing? I will never leave you.
That it might have.
You
Okay,
know?
so it may have been Jamie's mother, but they used, because they looked like, they just used.
No, oh,
I
you mean
think
on
that's
the table?
some
No,
lady who's
I,
sick.
No, I think what
Dead.
Courtney's getting at.
She was good.
Yeah, but I think what Courtney might be getting at with the foreshadowing in terms of that scene with Jamie and Murtaugh, it might be that something has happened to Murtaugh.
Yeah.
Which makes Jamie go back to the time when Murtaugh said, I will always be with you. And
Yeah.
having, you know, talking about making that pledge to the mother.
and I would like to, oh, excuse me.
I just got chills.
I would also like to point out that for book readers, they know that Murtaugh is always with Jamie. And in the book, he's already passed away by book 5. But his spirit is always on his side, so along his side, and he's always with him. So it's hard to say what that means
Yeah.
without further information.
Exactly. What did you guys, yes, back there.
I was gonna say that I thought it was interesting that these were the first 2 scenes of the first episode of season 5, because they are gonna be 2 of the major themes of the season, I think, and the fact that each episode is gonna come back to those first 2 scenes and how those relationships have progressed.
good point.
That's a really good
That's
point.
a really good point.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I was gonna say, how much do you think it's gonna diverge from book 5? Because I thought I had read something that said they were gonna take some of the future items and sort of mix them up.
I think that they are using part of A Breath of Snow and Ashes. That's what I'm kind of getting. But Diana has said that the season is good, so I'm like, okay.
She put her stamp of approval.
Yeah.
Yes.
She hasn't said
She
that all the
often
time.
puts her stamp of approval on the season before it airs, but then
She'll go back.
her attitude about each episode changes.
Well,
as she comments.
I don't think she loves every episode.
Yeah.
Or
Who does?
or
No, I know.
it could be every element.
So there's no way of
in every
knowing, is
episode.
my point.
So the comment back there that you didn't hear was that Jamie, the scenes, she believes those scenes that were shared with us from episode 501 are major themes that will be returned to throughout the rest of the episodes.
So what about the idea that the part from future books that's gonna be in season 5 is the part about like they keep showing Roger and Bree talking about going back? They don't have to do that in like,
Spoiler. Sorry. Spoiler alert. Yeah. Well, they could scoot that up. That's a good observation.
I think one thing that's very consistent is that whenever they show the trailers and what we think is going to happen based on what the trailers are, never turns out to be what it is.
Yeah.
So I think they're trying to
And they do
speculate.
it that way.
Yeah, they do it on purpose. So my feeling is, seeing this trailer, I still don't think, I'm not speculating on anything because I know that they're simply trying to take us one way so they can jerk us back the other way.
Jerking us around.
They're messing with us.
I mean, Miss Tammy in the corner there has
Oh,
one.
sorry. I was just thinking that because they've shown us those two scenes from season 1, that those give us more information about what this season is actually going to be, the arc that it's going to take.
Rather than
Yes.
the
Rather
trailer.
than the trailer.
Oh.
See, I
I
can't
kind of
remember
felt
which
like
is the
that
trailer.
was, direction.
Yeah, that's kind of what she said. Yeah, back there that's setting the tone for the season.
I felt like it gave me more information
Yeah.
than the trailer. The trailer was great,
Yeah.
but
Well,
those little fast snippets were.
Duncan Lacroix recently said that he thinks season 5 is his best season. So you may be right.
I have a question, don't shoot me. Which is the trailer and which is the preview? I mean, are they,
What we
They're
saw
really
today is
fast
the
snippets.
official trailer.
Okay.
The preview is the one with the little Jamie kid, little boy
Okay,
with
okay.
the top.
That's the
And I may not be using the
I don't
right-
know the terms.
That's the
Okay.
excerpt. That was the excerpt from 501.
Yes.
That is different
Thank
from
you.
the official
Excerpt.
trailer.
Excerpt,
So we got an
trailer.
excerpt from 501.
And then we got a teaser, I
Ladies,
think.
get your terms right.
Yes, thank you. I think we got a teaser where we see Jamie in a kilt, didn't we?
Yes,
Yes,
we do.
So we were all rejoicing. I didn't get to that today, to say like, how was it to be back in a kilt?
In a kilt.
Because that's such an important, link to Scotland. And I was curious if it helps Sam inhabit the character differently or more, or, I don't know.
Does anybody remember when he put on his kilt in Fiery Cross?
Burning Cross.
That's correct.
But
Gathering.
for that night.
For that, he specifically wears it that night, and he does a sword dance. Spoiler.
I don't know if we're gonna get the sword dance, you think?
Probably not.
We probably won't get this one down. No. That would be great. That would be,
Yes, it would.
If anybody follows me, you know that dance is, I love to dance. So, no. So I think so. If we got the sword dance, that would be spectacular.
It
to me.
would.
That would.
But I would wonder how they would pull it off because I don't think Sam can dance. They probably have to bring in a dance double.
A body double, his stunt guy. Did you guys notice anything? I wanted to point out some things from the season 5 official trailer the credits. They showed us the credits. I noticed that they gave billing, and I don't know if this is just for that episode or if it's in general. We saw Maria Doyle Kennedy and Duncan Lacroix. We saw Colin McFarlane and Caitlin O'Ryan, who plays Lizzie, but no Natalie.
Phaedra.
No Phaedra.
I know.
I'm sure she's back, but maybe she's just having a lesser role. Did anybody else notice that?
But they cut out Dr. Abernathy. And I know, I'm gonna harp on this a little bit, but
She loves
Dr.
Dr.
Abernathy is
Abernathy.
my favorite character in the books. And they really truncated his part. So adding and subtracting, and I know that some of it has to do with who they like as characters, some of it has to do with who they like as actors, availability. I'm sure there's a lot of moving parts, but going by the books, it just doesn't necessarily translate into the show. Yeah.
Between Claire and Dr.
Yeah, it was not. Yeah, they just took that.
Well,
all
I
the way
think they
out.
just don't have time.
They don't have
and
time.
Antoinette's going to disagree with me.
Well, they had time for other things like that. But they had time.
Choices.
Yeah,
Character development takes time. I know there's
but
time
people
that we
make
think
time for
that's
what
been
they think is
wasted.
important.
Yes, that's true.
Let me just get this out there.
Talking to the mic then.
When the production says they don't have time to include certain things, it makes my blood boil, because they have time for certain other things. Do you see what I mean? And they go on and go off on tangents about things that aren't important to the core story. And then they want to talk about how these things were necessary, and because we did this in that episode, we had to do this in the other episode. Well, that's I'm going to be PC, and I'm going to say that it's a bunch of gaga.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Because you have 13 episodes going in. And when you're breaking down the episodes and you're looking at your source material, I would have thought that you are going to be isolating those parts of the source material that speak to the core story, and then you're going to thread those through using the 13 episodes that you have. But what has happened in the past, I think, is that they have focused on other things that aren't necessary to the core story, spent a lot of time on those things, and then rushed and put so many other things into the remaining episodes that it gives the season imbalance.
I think that's a function. We've seen that since the second half of season 3, and I think that's a function of having more writers. That it's like, here's your assignment, go off, and you come back, and then you kind of go.
I want to make a comment about
Please
the
do.
shaving scene. Can I do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The shaving scene.
The shaving scene, which I felt was extraordinarily well played by both of the men, and I thought it was a very interesting, intimate moment in the development of the relationship between these two men, which started off on very shaky, bad ground, to say the least.
Understatement.
And I think Jamie, I don't know if you noticed or not, but, and by the way, Courtney on her website pointed out that it kind of harkened back to the shaving scene of Frank and Claire, and also of the shaving scene of the underling with Blackjack Randall, using the same straight razor. But what I wanted to say that I noticed, and I don't know if any of you noticed, but toward the end of that exchange, Jamie hands this sterling ring to him and said, "This is for my daughter." And he said, "Well, I was expecting copper and brass." And he said, something like, "This is the best for my daughter." Did you see the double entendre in that? Because I think he was also talking about he's changing his mind toward Roger and realizing that he is a decent guy, and he really is in the books, and he's gotten a little short shrift here and there in the episodes, but in the book, Roger is just a really great man. And so I was really happy to hear that, and I did think that was meant to be a two-edged sword there about the relationship that is developing between those men.
Thank you. We have a comment back here.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, thank you.
I couldn't hear.
Foreshadowing what's coming up for Roger.
Oh. She said, that is very heavy foreshadowing for what is coming up for Roger.
Could be.
With his neck being exposed like that.
Yeah.
Do you
I'm sorry, we have a comment over here.
Do you plan on producing a cookbook based on your show?
There is a cookbook based on Outlander. Two versions. That's a good question. And what's the name of it?
Outlander Cookbook. Volumes
Outlander
1.
Kitchen?
Outlander Kitchen, yeah.
Outlander Kitchen.
Volumes 1 and isn't there 2? Aren't there 2
Yeah, there are
volumes?
2.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay. I bet you can pre-order it. Anybody else?
Talking about the shaving scene, what I noticed, first thing right off was how rough Jamie was with Roger. I mean, I thought he was going to snap his head off here every time he cooked him, and I'm thinking he's kind of like, still has feelings of anger towards Roger, and it's like telling him, you know, you better be straight with my daughter or you're not going to be around for much longer.
Yeah.
He did kind of yank him around.
She said, I noticed how rough Jamie was with Roger when he was shaving him, how he would like go, you know, and with his head.
I noticed that too.
Very intimidating.
When I saw that scene, the first thing I thought of was my mother when I was little, braiding my hair and getting mad. And like, and I was like, ooh.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I saw that scene also.
Out the dog, being out the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Showing Roger who's boss, who's the lair. I gotcha. Yeah.
Do you guys, yes.
And then I noticed that Roger was saying, I can't do this, I don't know how to do that. And what was the thing that Jamie answered back to him?
You said something about other people, you'll have to rely on others then to help you.
Yeah, he was basically saying,
Don't
what
worry
kind of
about
man
it.
are you, I think.
Don't worry about it.
I don't know if it was don't worry about it.
I think it was more, you have to rely on the skills of other people, and until you find what your skill is,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
That's what
And Roger,
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it because you'll find something.
and Roger does,
I
he
think
does
Jamie's,
eventually find his place.
I think Jamie is still, in that scene, not totally sold on Roger.
I will comment on that since I brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with you. I don't think he's totally sold on Roger, but I think he is starting to make that journey, that he needs to accept him. He knows that this is the man that his daughter loves.
Yeah.
And Claire's going to get after him if he doesn't, if he's too harsh on Roger. And I think it was interesting that Roger started out tried to shave himself, if you remember, and he cut himself, and that's when Jamie took over. And he there's several times in the books where, he's kind of showing he's the better man of the two, and there's competition. But he does get by that, and I do believe that I saw hints of what is to come. I didn't mean to say that he's there, but just that he's beginning to take those steps that he needs to take.
Well, I think he's confused about who he is because this is not a man that he's used to. Because he's kind of like, you can't do this and you can't do that. What man can't do these things, because he's from the future. And so I think Jamie's a decent guy and he wants to be loving, but he's also like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to make of you, what category. And this is you're supposed to watch out for my daughter and you can't even.
Did anyone else find it interesting?
He's had his hand up for a while.
Roger is a man from a different century.
Yes.
He has a different skill set
Right.
that fits with his century. it doesn't fit with where he moved to.
Yep.
So he has a lot of learning. He's a very steep learning curve.
Yes.
He doesn't know these skills at all. So he has to rely on them.
Yeah, and he's gonna.
Well, I think that's the point of Jamie's comment when he says you're going to have to rely on other people, you know, while you find your place. And so I do think that Jamie recognizes it, Roger recognizes it, and in that regard, they're both on the same, at least the same page in that regard.
But I also think that given the different centuries that they're from, Jamie wouldn't necessarily respect the skill set that Roger has at that moment. So, however, Roger probably would respect the skill set that Jamie has.
Yes.
However, one of the things I thought was very interesting, though, is that they did tend to focus on Jamie's relationship with Roger. There wasn't a whole lot about Roger and Bree. And I'm interested to see what they do with that development, if they're going to try and create an emotional investment into their relationship, or if it's still going to be about Jamie and Claire throughout the season. But I think if they focus too much on Jamie and Roger, it will be not as interesting.
Okay.
Plus, Bree takes on a lot of work that is basically man's work, you know, when she, I don't know, is this a spoiler? When she
Spoiler!
Spoiler.
does the kiln and makes
The engineering work.
But do we?
They don't make
Do
her
we
an
have
engineer
her?
like they did in the
Yeah.
books.
What,
No, well, a show Bree
is not an engineer, is
is
she?
not as resourceful and as skilled and brings as much to the table as book reading. We have not seen that side of book read in show read yet. So let's see if that happens
She
this
lived
season.
through the
But-
forest with the sticks all around and didn't even get a walking stick.
Do you know what I mean?
I don't really understand.
So
I mean, an engineer would definitely go.
Exactly. I think
I
that
could
would
make
be.
crutches out of
So
it.
having given us this version of Bree so far, I think it probably is going to be too much of a leap for Bree suddenly to start building bridges and, you know, and being an engineer and all of that. But you know, part of art and TV is that we have to suspend our disbelief. So,
Well, considering it started with the woman falling
through the stones and going back to the back, you know.
This
She
is
could
true.
fall and hit her head and suddenly remember that she's an accomplished engineer.
Oh, yes.
She fixed this
Oh,
car.
they did show him
She did
fixing his
that
car.
distributor car.
She fixed
She tightened that distributor car.
for Leary too.
And she did what for Leary?
What
Oh,
did she fix at Leary's house when she ended up there?
who's Leary?
Oh, her.
She's the one Jamie didn't sleep with.
Yeah, how about that? You didn't even remember sleeping with her. It was off
It wasn't
screen,
memorable, that's why.
too sleepy.
Do you, yes.
Am I wrong in thinking that Bree didn't become an engineer until she goes back with stones to her time?
No, didn't she switch her major?
Switched to major.
Yeah. Spoiler. I think all the spoiler alert
She switched her
people know.
major after she found out, when she went from Scotland, she found out that Jamie was her father. When she went back, she gave up history and then switched her engineering. That was before.
As in, went back to school, not went back in time.
Yeah, she went back to school and changed her major.
And they didn't really clarify that in the show.
No.
It's like you knew she was dropping out of.
Want something, but we didn't know where she was going.
They really didn't make it clear. She continued her studies, but they didn't make it clear as to which direction she was taking.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they cut out a lot of that art.
Yeah, they cut out a lot of that art so that we could see her and Frank having tea and
Raise your hand.
say goodbye on the war.
Raise your hand if you voted for episode 407 Down the Rabbit Hole as your favorite episode in that.
Which fans did that?
Which was that?
Is that
Down the rabbit
anyone's
hole.
favorite episode with Frank and Leary?
That's where she goes back in time and meets Larry. So, did anybody like 407 the best?
It's okay if you did.
There was a
Okay,
poll.
we're just interested.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. There was a poll, And y'all voted that as your favorite episode.
Yes. I forget what the poll was, but they said the favorite episode is 407, and someone who voted said that was the only choice. So I think it was a little marketing stunt. Do you guys want to talk about that fiery cross?
The fiery cross. Essentially, crosses being burned, no matter what type of cross it is going to have some problems. Historically, no matter what type of cross it is, whether it's a Celtic cross, whether it's a Christian cross, it doesn't really matter to those people who are terrorized by cross burning. So I don't understand the controversy. It is historic. It happened. I don't see any reason to remove it or to make it seem as if it's something other than what it was. It simply is a burning cross, and burning crosses have been used to terrorize people in the past, actually in the present. But, so, I mean, it is what it is.
Exactly. It is not our job to sanitize history.
No.
You know, that is not the job of any creative endeavor, to go back and sanitize history. It is what it is. It happened. But we're not saying that by showing it in the show, presenting the historical accuracy, that we're in any way legitimizing how it has been co-opted and used to terrorize people.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
So I think that something else needs to be said. I mean, yes, we love Outlander. We love, Scottish culture because of Outlander. But the people who became the Ku Klux Klan were descendants of people who came from Scotland. Not all of them, but some of them. So a lot of that culture did get co-opted, and some of it was introduced on purpose. But that doesn't change the fact that it was there. It doesn't change the fact that, it doesn't mean that all of the culture is bad. It doesn't mean anything other than that. It happened.
I think there's going to be some really interesting discussions on Twitter.
Well, there already are.
We've got 5 minutes left.
Okay, just 1 second, I'll make a comment and then I'll come out there. Did you guys see the article Lynette Rice put out yesterday?
No.
So, it was a light covering of that subject of the fiery cross. And Matt Roberts said, well, this is the kind of cross they would have burned. It wouldn't have been a Christian cross. We researched this, and that's why we chose this cross.
But we don't care. We don't care. We don't care what kind of cross it is. If it's a burning cross, it's a burning cross. And historically, it doesn't matter what kind of cross it was used to terrorize.
Yeah, I think when you have a book called The Fiery Cross,
you expect to have a cross burned.
You have to talk about this subject, which we will on our discussion group.
What happened historically and what happened in the book and what happened throughout doesn't matter. They're not necessarily connected.
But we have a problem with that today. Like,
I don't see why we're even making a connection. It's like some people did it to terrorize and some people did it to express their culture, period.
Well, I think because we're seeing that behavior now, and so it's like we've
always seen it.
I know, but it's
amplified now.
Amplified. Thank you, my lawyer friend. And so the production wants to divorce itself from that.
That's ridiculous.
So, I mean, that's presentism,
that's ridiculous.
right?
Yeah,
that's
exactly
presentism.
so. Exactly.
Wait, we three are, Carmen?
We don't
Yes.
Carmen?
I'm sorry, Carmen. Sorry. Go ahead.
Don't apologize. We'll just
Well,
give her a time.
first of all, I want to say that I noticed the details of that cross. It was absolutely beautiful. And I'm pretty sure his Sam's uncle probably created it just like he did the stag.
Yep.
I think that Claire, if you remember, spoiler, in the book, in the fiery cross, when the burning occurs, she ponders on whether or not this is the roots for the clan.
Yeah.
And so, Diana, she didn't shy away from this issue. She didn't spend chapters on it like she did on The Gathering. But I think that I will be enormously disappointed if they do not include that in an episode and show the background of what it meant when he was trying to form a community. And
Yeah.
if you remember, Diana's word, she has one word for each of her books, and her word for this book, 5, is community.
Yeah.
And he is trying to form a community on Fraser's Ridge. He is using that burning cross to gather people around him and acknowledge that he is basically the laird, and that they should follow his, hopefully, his command and his requests.
Yeah.
How many book readers in here? Lots. So I was at a Surrey International Writers Convention. I'm a writer, and Diana was there, and I was at a panel. And I thought it was so interesting. She said that the Fiery Cross, the last thing she does with any book is she goes through and she looks at every paragraph, every sentence, every word, and she makes sure, does this belong in here? Does this belong in here? And she said that the publisher grabbed that book before she had done that process for the Fiery Cross, and that there are about an extra 40,000 words in that
Yes.
book.
So we don't know what I was there too, and I heard her say that. We don't know. I would love to know which ones.
Well, I think she would have to remove. She'd have to do the cut version. No, well, yeah, maybe part of it.
It's the gathering.
Anyway, there were lots of comments. Do you still have your comment?
You know, my comment was, I totally agree with Carmen. At that time, and in that Highland culture, that's what you did. You burned the cross, and it wasn't a bad thing. There's no bad connotation.
Right.
You were gathering all your people together.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say.
Well, at least they
all agree
didn't
with that.
change the name to, you know, the standing cross or something. You know?
But I mean, I think that, like, what I said about the controversy was simply that people do have somewhat of a visceral knee-jerk reaction to a burning cross. But I think that that is not appropriate in this case because it is historic. It doesn't necessarily mean the same thing that it means now. And so I hope that they don't sanitize it, just like Antoinette said, for the show.
Final comments. I think we're.
I
We
just
are.
wanted to say, just to close out this Fiery Cross discussion.
Yeah.
So I'm a historian and
Yes.
really appreciate it's nobody's job to sanitize history. I think that's how we learn about history and how not to repeat it, not to be cliche. But yeah, I think Carmen said it the right way. It's, you know, this was the history. And I think I was going to bring up about the conversation. I couldn't remember if Bree or Roger or Claire, but she does have a pondering about this was the starting of how the Klan co-opted this, which so many things in history have been co-opted by
Like a
evil
swamp
people.
people.
And I think it is important. I think this is how we open discussions, and I really hope they don't sanitize it, and I hope that it opens discussions in a meaningful way. Fingers crossed. So, yeah.
One final comment on that. I'm sorry. This production has, I think, been very brave in tackling sensitive subjects, and I don't think that they should, you know, bow to any pressure and stop doing that. This production has tackled slavery. This production has tackled rape in culture. This production has tackled the exploitation of men and women. So I don't think now, in season 5, is the time to be pulling back and you know, and trying to appease people's sensibilities. It's not the time.
Who was at the SAM panel today? Everybody? My lawyer has a comment about my Geneva.
The thing is that Courtney, I mean, I know a lot of people don't like that scene with Geneva, and there's all this controversy. There's all this controversy about it was rape and it was this and it was that and it's horrible. Yes, all of that is true, but Courtney's comment was in answer to a specific question, which was, what was your favorite sex scene? No, and she said that scene. And her comment is meant to say that it was a very well choreographed and very well produced sex scene for TV. It is not meant to legitimize or give a stamp of approval to the circumstances under which that occurred. But it was a very well done sex scene for TV, and that was it.
Yeah, and I want to tell you guys that when you're interviewing someone, you don't expect them to ask you questions. And I was like, shit. I couldn't pull out one scene between them, and I was like, move with me.
That was what my
I knew what she liked.
I know.
I knew what she was going to say.
Tell me, I mean, the thing is, yes, people have their issues with certain scenes, but if you have, and I like to, what I refer to as a hormonal reaction to a scene, it doesn't matter what else happens. If you react to it, it's a good scene. And that was a good scene.
Yeah, I'm in no way in favor of rape, obviously, and or blackmail or any of that stuff. It was just a very hot sex scene. And I'm a big Jamie and Claire fan, obviously.
She's already getting kickback on Twitter about it. So.
But you know what? When you say something...
Yeah, I'm not worried.
Oh, God, no. Yeah, she's got too many pictures on her side.
Yes.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
If they could portray it the way it was written, I think it would have gotten a tremendous amount of controversy.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Even as they portrayed it, it got some controversy. But in the show, not necessarily the book, but in the show, the way they did it, it did create an emotional reaction. And in my case, a hormonal reaction, if you want to call it that. But just as much as with Claire. In fact, there's some scenes they've done with Claire that I just did not react to. But I did to that one.
She was doing that for herself, which was not the way it came across in the book.
She said that in the book, but
she does.
It was, I don't know. Yeah, it was a different.
It was more harsh. It was
more harsh in the book.
Yeah.
So we have to close. Does anyone have a pressing something that you really want to add?
I want to know if you're still having a cocktail party tonight.
We're still having our cocktail party.
You're all invited.
You're all invited. We're going to be
drinking.
We will. I need a drink after today.
And dancing if we can. Pull it off.
So we'll be at the Omni lobby bar at 7.
Omni Riverfront.
Yeah.
Omni Riverfront, yes, not the French Quarter.
So thank you so much for coming. We will be doing episode discussions after every episode this season 5, and we hope that you will watch.
And thank you for your participation.
Thank you so much for your interest.
That was wonderful.
This was supposed to have been a one-time thing, and I have 3 sisters now because of your interest in what we do.
Thank you. Are the best. You guys are the best.